War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we sit down, we get together, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you guys for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We'll take you however we can get you, and we appreciate you just spending even just a few minutes of your very hard-earned time with us here on this channel to discuss all things Auburn. On tonight's live stream, we have now moved into on our regularly Wednesday night live scheduled shows where we don't necessarily have a fully scheduled topic. Typically, this is the night that we would be doing previews for the next football game. Football's done. There's nothing regularly scheduled, like a football scheduled for the rest of the year. So we are going to move this back into kind of an open-ended discussion night where I'll have something prepared. Tonight's topic that I've written as the headliner: the OC search continues for Auburn football, and I'm sure that's pressing on all of your minds tonight, so we will discuss that a lot, I'm sure. But really, anything is fair game at this point if it's related to Auburn. If you'd like to talk about softball, if you'd like to talk about Suni Lee being the SI Woman of the Year, that's incredible. We can talk about that as well. Anything is fair game. And tonight, headphones are on. Open call-in night, which means that you can call in, open to anyone who wants to take advantage of that. The link is pinned at the top of the chat window. All you have to do is click it. You can then select if you want to be on camera or off camera. It can be audio only, just like a radio call. We'd love to hear from you. It's always easier for me if you guys call in too, because then I don't have to talk as much. But hey, I like talking to you and I like discussing all these things. And regardless of whether anybody calls in or not, we will answer your questions, your comments, and derogatory rebuttals and all that good stuff. A lot of you are already doing it right now in the chat window. Go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't, and post where you're watching from: city, state, international if you're international, and a War Eagle if you're an Auburn fan. We do get some of these weird people that show up. No, I shouldn't say weird. Interested fans from other fan bases that show up and want to be part of the discussion here. We get a Georgia fan every once in a while. For a while there, we had some Penn State fans who joined in. We might get some Houston fans to sneak on over here for that bowl game we've got coming up. Hey, anybody can call in, anybody can comment. But thank you guys for doing that. Let me say hello to a couple people already here. We got Neil White, Dusty, Corey, Devin. Good to see all of you guys. Dusty from Pensacola, Corey's there, Devin from Texas, and I got to give Devin a shout out. Devin, by the way, I sent you some emails and messages in the Booster Club. Devin is our newest member of the Booster Club. You can join that too if you'd like to. It's really easy to do so. In the link, there are descriptions. Go check it out. $1 a month is all it takes. And if you don't want to go over to Patreon, where that's at, and you can get some special perks, you can just sign up here to help support us, being a channel member for $1 a month. But both of those options are available to you if you'd like them. But thank you, Devin, for joining up over there and helping us support this content. Of course, Neil, I say good friend, we've never met, but I feel like we are because we're probably miles from each other, if that. The Gap is in the house, Larry says, so good to see you as well. Michael Conway from Opelika, Beham Bowl Bound. Thank you, Russell. Thank you guys for giving hashtag E2Cs and stuff like that. But share it out on social media. Let everybody know that we're live. Let's get as many of our fans in here as possible to discuss what you want to talk about in the Auburn family spectrum. Obviously, the coordinator news is front and center. Neil says Damian Craig. I don't know. What do you guys think? I certainly I haven't heard a lot of chatter about Damian Craig outside of the initial beginning of the search. Now, I've been kind of unplugged from the internet and social media for the last couple hours today, so things could have transpired that I'm not aware of or privy to at this point. So, Neil, if you're suggesting Damian Craig in that you have some news, let us know. Otherwise, just kind of share your thoughts about it. What do you guys think about the possibility of a Damian Craig as an OC? He has not had any offensive coordinator experience. He's been a wide receiver coach. I think he's had a stint as a quarterback coach, being a quarterback himself. I shouldn't say he's had no OC experience. When he was here at Auburn, he did receive the title of assistant OC, I think, at one point. But I may have that wrong, but I believe he did have that. So whether you can count that as experience, I don't know, but there's that as well. Big Simp, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Abigail, okay, that's interesting. I don't know what that's all about. That might be a spam thing. War Eagle from Mars, Cohen says. Well, that's that's an interesting thing there. Did you see the story about Brent Venables mocking Auburn? Yeah. From what I remember about the whole Brent Venables thing, he was very high on the list. And this, what we're referencing for those of you that aren't aware, going back a year ago when we fired Gus Malzahn, we're searching for a new head coach. Brent Venables' name was pretty high up there. But from what I understand, he's had some skeletons in his closet that are pretty hard to get rid of or make people a little uneasy about him. And that's why because he's been, think about this. He was a defensive coordinator guru at Oklahoma forever. Then he went to Clemson on over there with Dabo Swinney and had great success there, obviously. And he stayed there and hasn't really taken a job anywhere else. And he had plenty of opportunities to. Apparently, Auburn was one of them. So when he says these things about Auburn, it's kind of hard for me to take it at face value, right? You know, sometimes people say things they don't necessarily mean. This day and age, I try not to get too bent out of shape about anything, but I do find it interesting that he would bring up Auburn. I haven't watched the press conference. I haven't watched the context of everything, so I'm probably not informed enough to comment on it. But Brent Venables, if you were worthy of the job, you would be here, essentially, is what I'm getting at, I guess. Keep it up. You're going to have the biggest sports cast in the U.S. I appreciate that, Corey. I would say this, and while I would like for us to be the biggest in the way that we need to be, I'm not looking to be, you know, the big star out there. I kind of like having the one-man show here in terms, and when I say one-man show, we have our podcast there where we have several contributors and stuff like that. You see and hear from some of them all the time. But I kind of like the way we do it here. And of course, as things grow and things will have to change and stuff like that. But we'll see where it takes us. Big Simp says, promote Cadillac. Let's get this ball rolling. He's our most must-keep guy. I want Caddy. I feel like Caddy is in a good spot. I don't think he has personally proven that he can get stolen away by anybody just yet. I'm not saying he hasn't done a good job, because he has. He's done a good job recruiting, and the running backs are still pretty decent. So I think from that stint, he's doing his job here, taking care of that. I think he loves being at Auburn. I think it would take the right type of situation for him to leave, or a bad situation, a firing, something like that, of the head coach or anything like that. There's a reason that he's still around here and he's sticking around here. If you were to promote him, it was actually funny. Austin, who you guys have seen here a lot on the show, a lot of times, he and I were talking about this once the Drew Bobo decision was brought down, that we thought, just go ahead and give Cadillac the job and just let's be done with it, and let him let Harsin call plays, which he may be deciding to do. We'll find out, right? Listen, it's kind of the same thing as Damian Craig. No OC experience, as an Auburn guy. It's a good recruiter. You know, you can kind of make the same case for the two of them. I've heard much worse suggestions. Dan Mullen. Those of you that want Dan Mullen, I can't get my head wrapped around that. I'm sorry. If it was Craig, Dusty says, by the way, he's one of our Booster Club members and channel members. Thank you, sir. If it was Craig, that means he would be brought in for recruiting, that Harsin would be calling plays. So that's been discussed a lot, especially the last couple of days. Let me say this. I've done a couple videos over the last couple of days, edited videos. If you guys want to go check those out, they're from the last 2 days. One was kind of breaking down what's transpired since the firing till about Tuesday, when things shifted again, because the main guy was Zach Hill from Arizona State. The Harsin guy made a lot of sense. It was the no-brainer hire in a lot of cases. That has fallen through because of some compliance issues, apparently, not necessarily with Auburn, really with Arizona State. And so we've had to move on to greener, I guess you'd call it, pastures. Now, the reason I brought that up from what Dusty said is the discussion is that Harsin may be going the route of bringing in someone as an OC in title, but necessarily not having the full capacity of an OC, meaning you have a run game coordinator who's given the title of a offensive coordinator like a Dell McGee. You give a great recruiter, Damian Craig, who gets to kind of get his feet wet at OC, but he's still play calling. I agree. Really, it's a decision. And I said that today in today's video. The decision now is what Harsin wants to do. Does he want to call the plays for the next season or two and build this next person up? Or does he want someone to step in and take the reins so he can keep the CEO role, focused CEO role? That's really what the decision, and also is the decision of where the focus is going to be in improving this offense over the next couple of seasons, hopefully. Those three choices I gave you cover three areas that need some serious help. So go check that out if you haven't. No to Damian Craig, Harsin guy. Well, if Damian Craig was brought, if this is what you're saying, if Damian Craig was brought in, he'd be the Harsin guy, right? I think I've seen a lot of this, and I'm not picking on you, ACCSSI. Interesting. But just because it's not what you view as a Harsin guy doesn't mean it's not a Harsin guy, right? He's not going to bring in someone that he doesn't want to work with. He's going to bring in the best of the availability that he has. Damian Craig is excellent recruiter. He brought crab legs to FSU. I think the crab legs brought crab legs to FSU. Now, he was, if you guys don't remember, Jameis Winston was a Birmingham product and got stolen out of the backyard here and down there. Doug, one of our Booster Club members and channel members, thank you, sir. Kenny Dillingham forgot about 2019 with Gus, and he didn't call plays when he was just a spot taker for Gus. He's a good recruiter at FSU, and there is mutual interest. You know, Doug, this one keeps popping up, and I actually, when I was doing my video today, I was talking to someone, and I said, okay, I got 4 names. Dell McGee, Kyle, you're blanking on it. Austin, whatever his name is, out of Seattle, and Jeff Grimes. I want to include Kenny Dillingham. Do you think I should? Do you think there's enough smoke there for Kenny? He said, I would put these other people before Kenny Dillingham. And that's where we were at, midday. So I didn't include him in that. Doesn't mean he's not being looked at. I would say that pretty much everybody has been looked at this point. That's a valid option. However, I still don't see enough smoke to make me think that he's a legitimate option. It's kind of another one of those things. We've been there, we've done that. But hey, that's what Harsin wants. That's what Harsin's going to get. Corey doesn't want to see Dillingham back. I don't have anything against Dillingham. I don't have anything to think that he's not a good or a bad coach. And for whoever said it earlier about saying something, tying it to Gus, I don't such a weird year. I'm not going to tie into that. Cohen, I like Grimes or McGee if Harsin plans on calling plays. If Grimes comes, I think he's not calling plays. Grimes he's been here at Auburn before. Do y'all remember that great offensive line we had with Cam? Cam was great, but he needed those holes to open so he could be great. He has been offensive line coach, tight end coach, and he's been OC places. I'm surprised, honestly, he hasn't gotten a head coaching job yet. If Grimes comes, he's calling the plays. You can take that to the bank. In my opinion, you can take that to the bank. I took Venables off my Christmas list. I would too, for being rude like that. Grimes, Utah OC, or Dell McGee. Utah OC, you're talking about. Gosh, there's been so many names. They're all sticking in my head now. Somebody help me out here. McGee, if Harsin calls the plays. Let's see. Steve says, don't bust on Venables because he told the truth. Well, we don't know that he told the truth. Just because it is a truth that, or a statement that you align with doesn't make it true unless you got the facts to back that up. And I'm not, listen, I haven't watched the clip in full context because frankly, I don't give a flying rip what anybody says about Auburn outside of the people who are actually here. It's kind of like when Tony Franklin, called out Coach Harsin for the firing of Cornelius Williams, the wide receiver coach in the season. Dude, shut up. just shut up. I mean, you're not a factor here. And you never were. And you guys can clip that, show that to him. I mean, because he said much harsher things to Coach Harsin. If you're not a factor here, your comments really don't matter in terms of coaches and other things like that are saying things. Dusty, I think it's really fun. All of these coaches saying they turned down Auburn. Why did you interview then if you were not interested in the job? They were lying. Bill Clark looking at you. Dusty has put Bill Clark on his list. Bill has been put on my list too. People were so hyped about him in the coaching search last year. And I was just like, I don't know. Something about it just rubs me the wrong way. Ludwig, that's who it was. Not hearing much on Ludwig. Was Harsin's mentor and OC for Mason at Vandy. So you got all those ties there, right? But it's kind of the same thing as Kenny Dillingham. There's more fan support at this point for that than there is actual smoke that I'm seeing. I use smoke a lot tonight, but that's kind of what I'm using to describe. Stan the man in the house, War Eagle brother. Good to see you. One of our channel members. Thank you, sir, for your support. Cohen likes McGee because of recruiting is selfish favorite. It's easy to be a little bit selfish and play favoritism when they've got the Auburn tie, right? Former Auburn Tiger, played his college career here and went to the NFL for a little bit. And he did a little bit of GA work here, I believe, and is obviously doing very well at Georgia as the run game coordinator. It'd be nice to see him come back home, but it's just kind of one of those things like, why hasn't it happened yet? There's got to be a reason for it, because I got to think there's interest from him. And there's certainly been at least some interest from Auburn in the past. Why hasn't it happened yet? So I'm not convinced, even though he's one of my top 3 available, that that's going to happen. I can honestly make a case anywhere for, for some of these options for OC, and then use something else to counter that it's not going to be the reason. Steve says Craig is not an OC. McGee is not who we need at any position. Interesting take. I'm going to need reasons behind that. Get the play calling experience in let's let folks get the play calling in much smaller schools. Sure. I mean, but there's something to this, right? This is a program that's very much unstable as changeovers tend to happen to it. So you kind of want, as the CEO, the hands-on type of leader Harsin seems to be, you kind of want to have your hands in everything to get things started off with. This was just kind of get things try to settle here in the first year, and it didn't settle all that much, but I can kind of understand from his point of view. Let me take full control of this offense for a season or two and get this ship righted the way I want it officially be going. No, and then the buck stops with me officially there. It always does, but then it stops with me there officially. Why bring McGee in as the run game coordinator? You're probably going to lose Caddy. Why have both? Doesn't really make sense for 2 running back. If I said that, let me clarify, Doug. If he gets brought in, he'll be brought in as the OC, right? And he'll take an overarching approach as opposed to specifically coaching the running backs. Now, that is obviously his area, but I believe he's coached other positions as well. Technically quarterback, it would be open since we don't have a quarterbacks coach, and you might see us go find a smaller guy for quarterbacks coach at that point. I don't know. Harsin's a quarterback guy, and I kind of think he fills that role regardless. Remember, we're hiring an OC. Yeah, I thought that's what we were talking about. Not really following. It's hard to keep track sometimes when we get behind in chat. Russell wasn't in favor when first hearing McGee, but when it was leaked Harsin may call plays, it makes sense recruiting wise, and he establishes the running plan at GA. Need a QB coach unless Hars coaches also. Kind of what we just talked about, right? I think Harsin is going to have his hands with the quarterbacks and kind of wants to be that main guy there. Bobby Petrino, just no motorcycles for him and no women's secretary. Ugh. One of the two things that I am happy that we never did as much as people wanted it was hire Kirby Smart, because you can see what happens. He'll get you to the peak and then you fall back down on your face, excuse me. And that we never hired Bobby Petrino. We'd be the laughing stock of college football if we had done that. And by the way, keep in mind as we go throughout the show tonight, down at the bottom, you can call in if you'd like. The link is in the very top of the chat window. You can just click up there if you're on YouTube. Obviously, you probably can't see that on Facebook or Twitter if you're watching. but that is available for you to call in. It's very easy to do so. You don't have to be on camera, all that kind of stuff. And we could switch gears too if there's something else that you'd rather be talking about. This is kind of a free flow night. Wednesday nights are usually that when we're not in football season. Blake or Peanut. I'm more of a Craig or Caddy than someone who has been to program after program. Feel like if they didn't cut it there, then why should we bring them to AU? But that's typically the coach's story, right? There's not many coaches that stay at one place. That's just kind of what you understand. For instance, I'll use this analogy as well. A lot of people don't know this about me, but some of you do. I'm actually a zoology major from Auburn. I used to work as a zookeeper. I've recently started doing this full time. You have to move around a lot in the zoo industry to advance, and we're not at a place where we can do that. So I made a shift in career changes. Same thing here. If you're going to be successful in coaching, you've got to move around a lot. Some do it more than others. And so I get Peanut's point from the fact that, you kind of prefer someone that shows a little bit of stability, but I don't necessarily knock them for that. Stan likes Dillingham. Tell me why you like Dillingham. I never understood the draw of him when he first came here, and I still don't kind of understand the draw now, but that doesn't mean he's not the right choice. I would think that the new OC needs to have impeccable recruiting credentials. We have to be better at recruiting. See, here's what's interesting to me about this, and I'm not a Gardner. I'm not knocking you at all when I say this. People keep saying this. We need to be better. What are you talking about when we say that? Are you talking about rankings? Are you talking about stars? Because if that's the case, yes, you are 100% right. But if you're talking about finding the right guys, which may not even be 3 stars, they may be 2 stars, if they even do such a thing anymore. So I guess that's kind of when I hear discussions about this, a very nebulous topic to me. We need to be better at recruiting. Rankings wise, sure, if that's what's important to you, but to me, it's not. It's nice, right? But I don't view it that way. I view it, Tommy Tuberville made a career out of turning 1 stars into 5 stars. So it's kind of a twofold thing. You got to find the right guys, and they may be 5 stars, but you also got to do something with them when they get here, right? It was one of the knocks of Gus when he was here. I didn't necessarily agree with that, but there's some case to be made there for that point. I love it when people spell it like this. If McGee comes, will Auburn steal a recruit or 2 from Georgia as well? Sure, why not, right? That typically happens when a new coach comes. They have some pull, some rapport with certain recruits. Regardless if they pull a certain recruit, Auburn will seriously hurt Georgia by pulling him away. And that is, if you don't know, Auburn obviously competes enough in Alabama, trying to get the people in Alabama from University of Alabama. But our fertile grounds are Georgia and Florida, and those are getting harder and harder to recruit from, especially with Cristobal coming to Miami. We used to go down to Miami and just pick out the best. It's going to be hard to do. So McGee coming in and taking away some of that fight, that power in recruiting from Georgia would be really a big thing. It really would. See, Corey says Dillingham hasn't done squat for FSU this year. Well, nobody, I don't think anybody can. Poor Mike Norvell. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's the wrong choice. I don't get the allure of him personally. That doesn't mean he's not the right person. Let's see here. Way behind in chat here. Robert Keith, good to see you. Thanks for being here on the live stream. Dillingham and Grimes are familiar with Auburn and SEC. This does matter. I agree with that. I do agree. I'm actually usually in favor of bringing in a former Auburn guy because Auburn is a unique program. And I know it's easy for me to say that with my orange and blue glasses on and my orange shirt and my blue shirt. We survive best when we bring in guys that want to be at Auburn. I'm not talking about want to coach. I'm not talking about want to recruit. And then move on to the next thing. I'm talking about love Auburn. That's when we thrive. And that may be some of the tumultuousness seen right here. We may not have guys that are necessarily not bought in, I shouldn't say, but still learning to love Auburn and want to be here and don't look for the next best thing. Just kind of throwing that out there. A. Robinson. Hey, listen, at this point, why not, right? Let's see. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up here. Ludwig looks good on paper. There has to be someone we don't know, but coach does. I would say I agree with you a little bit there, Steve. It's kind of like the Harsin hire. Kind of came out of the left field at the last second. I remember when I got the word from my source that was going down before anybody else was talking. I mean, it was probably about 45 minutes before the news started dropping everywhere else. And I'm like, holy crap, where did that come from? So if that's the way things are going to go, it most certainly could be. Isn't Grimes a throwing OC instead of running the ball down the team's throat? I would say, first of all, that you need, if you're going to categorize something into a corner, you always need to put in the context of what type of program they already have and what type of athletes they already have. A smart OC builds, and a smart head coach builds towards the players they have, which is why you probably saw some of the struggles in certain areas this year. Defense, looking at you. But I would say, from my experience being an offensive line coach, which typically in college, especially in the Southeast where he spent a lot of time, that's a run-focused place usually, outside of now Ole Miss or Mississippi State. He was the run game coordinator, I believe, at LSU, and I think that was right. I remember that on his resume a little bit. So personally, to me, Grimes was a run-focused guy. Now, he may be a passing more guy because that's what they have there. A great coach is able to mold themselves and their team to what they need to be. Let's see. McGee was a high school coach at Carver, right? From Montgomery. So Carver is very familiar to me. Oh, at Columbus. Never mind. So that I'm thinking of, who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of, he went to West Virginia, came down with us for Gus for like the last year at DBs. I forget his name. Sent a lot of studs to Florida, I guess is what Florida and Georgia. He sent some to us as well. Not as many, but some. Let's see. ASU is under NCAA investigation. Hill may not be in the running. I think he was in the running. I think he was the guy. I think most people believe that, excuse me, at this point now. But clearly we have moved on, or else that would have been signed on the dotted line. Unless something gets figured out in the next 24 to 48 hours, I don't foresee Zach Hill having a snowball's chance at this point, which was really sad. I'll tell you how close I thought we were to signing this thing, and was being told how close this was. I make these thumbnails for these live streams. I still have that one prepped. It was ready to roll. I was even thinking I need to start writing out the description for the video, just being ready to roll as soon as it's announced. That's how sure I was of it. Not anymore. Hoping they name an OC soon due to being a week from early signing day. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's important to recruits, right? But, this is a good test of if you're getting the right recruits for you in terms of, do they want to be at Auburn and not just there for a coach? A lot of the athletes, a lot of the recruits we're bringing in already have already reiterated that I signed up for a school, not a coach. So I think that, from what we've heard and understood, Mike Bobo was not fond of recruiting, didn't like the grind of it. I don't know if that's true, but I could see that. He didn't seem like a guy that liked to really get out there, and didn't see him in front of a lot of pitchers and stuff like that. He was more of a coach on the field coach, and not going out and being charismatic and stuff like that. So when you lose a guy like that, that's not the most focused recruiter, it doesn't really hurt you in terms of the recruits, right? Because those that sign up for the guy, they're usually seeing some other faces. Cohen thinks that Caddy is good where he is at running back coach. He's clearly doing just fine. I think he needs a few more years under his belt before he even sniffs a promotion. And that's me as a humongous Cadillac fan. That's his right there. It's always weird trying to angle my hand up, right? That's Cadillac, his signed picture up there. For me, Cadillac's my number one favorite Auburn players. Cody Burns, don't at me. Probably Cam Newton then. And after that, it's probably Deshaun Davis and then Nick Marshall probably. Those are probably my top 5. Any word on Flanagan? A little change up here. Any word on Flanagan? Is he back? Working his way back? And Kessler. Flanagan's back at practice. That news broke 2 days ago, I think it was. Yeah, he's back at practice. He's getting back into the swing of things. Is still expected mid-December, which is really only a week away. If he sees any time in December, I would suspect to be very limited, because that type of injury you're coming back from, you really want to make sure it's good to go before you really test it. And you don't really, the rest of the schedule for non-conference, there are some challenges. This Saturday, by the way, I'm going to be there. I forgot to mention that. Hope some of you will be there so we can meet up. It's going to be a challenge, but they're not. The hard part of the non-conference schedule is mostly over. So you don't really you'd rather have him for that challenging beginning of the SEC conference and clear to go. So if you're going to play him in non-conference, do it sparingly, get him worked back into the system. Kessler, I have not heard any updates on him. I know Coach Pearl said that he was still nursing it. It sounded like it sounded like there was some unsureness about what was going on, and they were really wanting to make sure that wasn't becoming a further problem. So we'll see. Blake, for a friend, why wouldn't we have gone after Les Miles after he left LSU? Is this a serious question, Blake? I don't know if, well, if you're talking about it in terms of head coaches, well, how about this? If you're seriously asking why we wouldn't have gone to Les Miles, did you see the way he left Kansas and the scandals that followed him from LSU to there? Everyone knows the skeletons that are in closets for people, Brent Venables. And those follow you no matter how hard you try sometimes, unless you're really well connected to cover them up. That's probably why, if you're legitimately asking that question. I don't really know why you would want Les Miles, because, he's fun to watch on the opposite sideline, but I would not want any part of that. BVK. I don't know if we've seen you before, BVK, but if you haven't been here before, welcome back. If you haven't, welcome for the first time. Need OC to be an elite recruiter that can develop quarterbacks. Bama is handpicking quarterbacks and getting who they wanted. So are a lot of other teams, and I would say Auburn too. Here's the difference, and it's as simple as this. Bama focused on fixing and stabilizing not just their current, but their future at offensive line. I can stand behind that offensive line and look half decent. I was a kicker. I got no arm. And I'm not taking anything away from Tua, from Bryce Young now, from Mac Jones, even though Mac Jones is not that good. Bryce Young's a great talent. He's probably going to win the Heisman, right? Unfortunately. But they're not handpicking the best ones out. They're getting good ones out there, and they're being supported by the things that are important. A solid run game, wide receivers that catch the ball, and an offensive line that won't get your leg broke. So that's really what it is. If you you see this happen now in the NFL. Tua gets to Miami and struggles a lot because he doesn't have great players around him. You're seeing that happen with Mac Jones. You're seeing that happen all the time at the next level. I know it's apples to oranges a little bit, but the point still stands. These are good quarterbacks, but they're not handpicking the best. They're handpicking the best for them at the time to what suited what they do well. Let's see. Concerning my idea that the new AC needs to be a good recruiter, it's easier to turn a 5-star into a 5-star than it is to a 3-star into a 5-star. You have to compete for the top. Yeah, I agree with it. You have to, you want to. I would disagree that it's easier to turn a 5-star into a 5-star, because if that 5-star, which a lot of them do, have attitude problems, they're not even going to see Kyle Davis was a 5-star recruit here at Auburn. I actually have, not even from the source I always reference, but from just I know pretty well that he had some issues before and after while he was here at Auburn. And if I'm thinking of the right wide receiver, that was not a 5-star on the field. It just wasn't, because he wasn't. So stars alone do not make a team great, a recruiting class great, or a recruit great. What you do with them, what they do with themselves, is what makes them great. I understand what you're trying to say, but I'm going to disagree with you on that a little bit. It's a common thread I'm seeing here. If Harsin is going to play call, let's get one that can recruit. I think that goes without saying. Let's see, trying to sift through some of these things here. I was thinking about the basketball news starting lineup. I'm going to say Wendell Green, Allen Flanagan, Katie Johnson, Jabari Smith, and Kessler. Well, Wendell's been pulled from the starting lineup, and it's been working. And I hate to say that, but it has. Katie has kind of swooped in and took that starting spot from him. They've kind of used Zepp and Katie both as starting point guards, with Wendell coming in for significant time after that. So I don't know that Wendell's going to be in there. It may be Allen's going to have to show that he can outplay KD Johnson for that spot. Honestly, he is. Or Zepp at this point. That's the thing that I think people miss a lot. It's not just him fighting back from his injury. It's him fighting back for his position. There are players that have shown that they deserve to be out there on the court. Referencing the whole Zach Hill thing, yes, I have heard that as well, that it was related to COVID, and that's just the way things are at some point. You know, it's just frustrating. Corey, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I got to think that's the case. Harsin and his staff are out. They posted pictures and stuff. They're out on the road. A bunch of them went out together yesterday on plane to, I think there was a picture tonight of them at the Oregon wide receiver recruit. You got to know there's a plan and that they're selling these kids on it. So Gus for OC. Hey, if it brings Gus back, why not? Cam Newton for OC. We're just throwing everybody out now at this point. Barando. I'm all for taking time to make the right hire, but this will be 2 years in a row around national signing that we have vacancies. Thought they said vaccines for a second, and that's frustrating. It's the nature of the beast. Happens a lot more than you think it does. But Auburn, outside of the last tenure of the Miles On era, what didn't have that happen a whole lot. We were blessed when we had Rhett Lashley around here for, was it 3-4 years, and we didn't have to worry about that. Yeah, I kind of agree. Keesaw probably would have happened by now, but they may have to default to that, which I don't think would necessarily be a bad thing. Rob, so he says, so are we stuck with Coach Mason? You might want to be careful, Rob. I think it was very easy to have this type of opinion. I'm not knocking you, Rob, but because Mason was held in such high regard when the hire was made and fell so flat. It was the most disappointing thing of the entire team, because we knew the offense was going to have its struggles, right? The offensive line was still there. New offensive coordinator. Bo was getting himself worked out. But we thought that defense was going to be pretty solid, especially that defensive backfield. And wow, what a disappointment. I think what we'll find with time, similar to the Cornelius Williams firing at wide receiver coach early on the season, while initially comparing that to keeping Mason, while initially it doesn't seem to make sense, I think it will over time. I will probably be wrong, as most people tend to be. I'm susceptible to that as well, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. Steve says, well, who is behind the hiring of Bobo? Harsin? There's this notion out there that the board of trustees, that the boosters, and they have pull. That is absolutely true. I've been told how much pull they have, but the guy still has got to make the choice. Okay. So it's not like they said, this is your only choice and you go hire him. He made the choice to hire him. And Bobo's had some good times where he has proven his worth. And we were talking a lot about that when the hire was first made and what he's done with quarterbacks. And, he was just not on a good trajectory, and obviously it rolled over to here. What about Graham Harrell from USC? I have not even thought about that one. He was the Texas Tech guy, right? Surprised that is not the route that Texas Tech went at OC. Those of you that didn't know, Zach Kitley of Western Kentucky got picked up by him to go back to Texas Tech. And he was like, I would have called him probably number 2 on the list in my eyes. Robert, thanks for being here, my friend. We appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us. Got a great crowd here tonight with 50. We pushed 60 tonight watching live. If you haven't, please do make sure you smash that like button. It does help the stream out, helps push it out to other Auburn fans. And if you haven't, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss any content. I'm trying, as my schedule allows, to put out more regular edited videos for you guys to consume during the day, and they seem to be doing well and seem to be getting received well during the middle of the day. I usually post them like around 1 or so, like that. And I'll do that as the topic. I'm not going to force things out, but if there's topics, things to talk about, I'm going to try to put them out for you guys. This is probably one of the best statements of the night. LSU just reeks of bad decisions and corn dogs. Yes. This might. Oh, can I star this thing? Hold on. What's that mean, star? I don't know what that just did, but it said I starred it. Oh, that's awesome. I just learned a new trick because of habit. So I think I can star as many as I want. I should pick a comment of the stream. Havoc's on the way to doing that. My feelings wouldn't be hurt one bit if we got Kendall Briles. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names out there that we would probably be happy with, but will they actually happen? Probably not. Quarterbacks are only as good as their offensive line. Completely agree with that. It's kind of like they say, behind every great man's a great woman, or every great woman's a great man. Behind every great quarterback is a great offensive line. Trying to figure out here where we're at on some of this. I've been in and out. Not sure if this covered, but what is your opinion on Harsin play calling? I did cover this a little bit earlier, Devin. I think if that's what he wants to do, I can see some serious value in that, because this is about riding the ship, forming the program in his image. And if that, I mean, that's going to do that. So I don't see a problem with that personally. Now, if we can get a guy like Jeff Grimes, give him the play calling and you be the CEO. But I think there is some value in that personally. Trying to understand that a couple of these comments are interesting. Wade says, I don't hold much stock in the importance of an OC to be an elite recruiter. He needs to be an elite coach. We need an elite program to recruit. That's a fair point. It's a fair point. I can get on board with some of that, most of that. You do see your positional coaches being typically the lead recruiters. That's really kind of their role, coaching up the players they have and bringing them in. But it doesn't take away the recruiting ability, the recruiting, prowess of a head coach, of a defensive and offensive coordinator. But I would kind of align with that. Switching over to basketball again. This is a very scary team. I think all the players can actually get their spot taken besides Kessler, maybe. Jalen Williams will go down, in my opinion, as the most underrated part of this team, because of his unselfishness, and because when he comes out there, he's like Jabari Smith, but and I say this is not a shot at him, but half the talent, because it's just Jabari Smith, right? I think even Jalen would admit that. But he can move with the ball pretty well. He can pass well. He can go up there with power. He is the most underrated guy on this team and has the highest level of respect from me. So I would argue that even though he's not as tall as Kessler, he can play that role, fill that role. So if Kessler doesn't get the job done, if he's hurt, Jalen can take that spot. Clint, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for being here, buddy. If it's McGee, would he coach in the playoffs, possibly championship? Well, it depends, right? Depends on what Kirby wants. I would imagine they would ask for that. But you also may not want someone for your rival as part of your team. Hot take. Archie is the best coordinators in the SEC. Would like Bryles, but both are is what making Archie so formidable currently. I think it's also the job that Sam Pittman's doing. We laughed at that hire. I laughed at that hire, but can't argue with the results, right? And some of that's from him hiring great recruits, hiring great staff. So I think that's probably more to do with what Sam has done while being scoffed at than, or just as much at least as his coaches. Minds of conflict. It's ironic that this is a comment. I'm still struggling with accepting the Iron Bowl loss after having a 99% chance of winning. It's seriously discouraging. I get it, man. I get it. I can't help you do this. All I can tell you is you got to find the positive in it. You had no shot to win that game, according to everybody and according to Auburn fans. And you took them down to the wire. And they clearly beat the best team based on rankings and stuff, and now apparently are the best team in the country. I disagree with that. But you got to learn to just turn it around and not be a Pollyanna about it, but find the good in it. What that showed you is that this team is capable. The team this year was capable of much more. The pieces just weren't all fitting together at the right time. Let's see here. Jamie, you're getting in a little late. What happened with Hill? Compliance issues, supposedly COVID related with Zach Hill, and they're not being helpful, and thus the deal does not look like it's going to happen. There's a video I've done this week. You can go check it out after this or even now if you'd like to on the channel. It should be 2 of the last 3 videos kind of breaking down the whole OC search stuff. But essentially, violations or compliance issues is what it was. Rise Life. Whoops. Is Harsin calling the plays in the bowl game? If so, this should tell us a lot about Harsin, right? Wrong. If you're going to make judgments, that's a strong word. If you're going to make strong opinions about Harsin's play calling ability in a bowl game where you may have players sitting out, where there are players not available, the best players aren't available, then you're not making a well-informed opinion of that. I'm not saying you will, Rise Life, but just saying you should take this really for nothing. This is a team that's really just trying to get to the finish line at this point. Now, if he does decide to play call, I think it'd be fair to start making some assessments, maybe not judgments, but assessments 3 to 4 games in. That's when Cornelius Williams got fired. He gave him 3 to 4 games, and it wasn't getting better. In fact, it was getting worse. So that I think that would be fair to say. But bowl game, no. Rob says, what's up with Easton recruiting? I see only one. We got 1 DL. So is amount the measure for a good recruiter? And I feel like I've picked on Rob a lot tonight. I'm not trying to, but what I'm trying to get across here to everybody, we need to stop worrying so much about stars, quantities, and worrying about the people that are coming in. That's what this is about. Are you a good enough, a talented enough athlete to be brought in and be coached up to your highest level? And that's hard to talk about. That's hard to measure. That's hard to quantify. That's hard to rationalize in our mind because you can't, because you won't know that. That requires patience. And I say that as the most impatient guy in the world. So I get it. It seems bad, but let's wait and see. It requires patience. And unfortunately, you're going to hear me say that a lot. Wes asked if there's a possible OC at the NFL that could take the job. Not an OC, but the quarterback's coach for Seattle. Why am I blanking on his name? In fact, I think I have it here on my notes from earlier today. If it's available on here. Austin Davis. That'd be probably your closest bet that I've seen. Brian Kelly doesn't even know how to eat it. Brian Kelly doesn't know really how to do anything in public. It's so awkward. He's a great coach, it seems like, but when he gets in front of a camera, he says things, he does things that they're just awful. All right. couple things here. We're not done yet, but I want to go ahead and do this now because I will need to be signing off in a little bit. Go ahead and get your final comments, questions. We'll try to rapid fire them. Anything's fair game. Football, basketball, SUNY Lee, what you like to eat at Auburn. Doesn't matter. Get it in now. We'll try to get to as best we can. And if I'll leave the phone line open for like another minute or two, if you want to get in and say hello, you can do that. But I want to remind you, check out some of the links in the descriptions for a way that you can help support our content here. You can become a Booster Club member. That's over at patreon.com/E2C network. That link's down there. Starts at $1 a month, goes up with different tiers that you have access to. All kinds of special stuff over there that we do just for the Booster Club members. If you just like to support and stay here specifically on YouTube, there's YouTube memberships or channel memberships. Those are just $1 a month, and that's all it takes to be one of those. There's TeePublic. Got our logo on t-shirts, another Auburn-related gear over there. There's sales going on right now. All ways you can help support us here and keep the content coming for you. Easiest thing to do is just be here and smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content, though. And we appreciate you for doing that. All right, let's rapid fire through some of this here. I'm going to miss a couple of things. Are there any candidates hesitant of taking the job due to the volatility surrounding Auburn? My answer to that is yes and no. Wouldn't you be? Right? Think about it. We won't know because none of us that I know of know these coaches, these candidates specifically, and know them enough to ask them that question. So I would say you don't know the answer to that. But no, because if we have a caller in, so I need to bring him in real quick because I want to make sure we have time to say hello to him. There he is, Jesse. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, you want a night call?
Just chilling and trying to wade through the bog that is OC searches.
Taking a little bit longer than expected.
Just a little bit. I'm not crying on the outside. I'm crying a little bit on the inside because I can't take it anymore. How are you feeling about the search?
Well, you kind of had me thinking that we were going to have that thing wrapped up Monday.
I did too.
But I mean, I just learned watching the stream that it's COVID, and I'll leave that alone.
I don't know what you want to do with that. You can't do anything with it.
It's kind of like it's funny because today's December 8th, and that was a big day. AL.com told us, and then you had the whole deal yesterday with the university coming out and with that whole thing, and then today Harsin posted a picture of him and Keesall in Portland. You can't even go to Portland without a vaccine the way they get down out there. So he didn't have a mask on either. You can't walk around Portland without a mask on. God, I think Harsin.
I don't know. Listen, I thought this OC search was wrapped up Monday. I was like, I cannot tell you how definitive I was being told, and I shouldn't say that. I was interpreting it as definitive that it's happening today. And if it doesn't, something went horribly wrong. Something went horribly wrong. And we kind of know now why. So that makes about as much sense as all that stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's the whole deal. We're never going to get the COVID's going to go on forever, I guess.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. We'll learn to deal with it, right? That's what we do. We push on. We work through it. So if our guy, Zach Hill is not an option anymore. Well, I say our guy, like we all picked him, but the guy, right? Who is it for you? And it's fair to say, even if it's not someone on the list. So, who is it for you that you think's the answer?
Well, I was talking to my dad about this earlier. We both kind of agreed that like all the off-season stuff, honestly, and this may just be like a personal thing as far as like preference and stuff. This is kind of where I trust Harsin. My questions after looking at a season of it are the in-game decisions, honestly. As far as all this stuff and building a program and helping everything go okay, I feel like we're gonna finish real big in the recruiting. And I agree with you. It's not about stars and stuff. It's just, but I feel like obviously there's holes that we need to fill as far as up front. We do need more than one D lineman. I think you're going to see some of those guys. I feel like that Perry kid is kind of a silent commit already. You'll see a couple more of those guys come in, and same thing with the O-line or whatever.
Yeah,
we need some receivers. That's why those guys flew all the way out to Portland, Oregon today. That kid's huge, 6'4", 215. So that's going to go well. Yeah. And we need that guy. Like me and you've talked about before. We got a bunch of number 2s and 3s at receivers. We need a 1. We need a guy that on 3rd and 9, we throw the ball to him and he gets 10.
Yep.
And that every game we know he's going to catch the ball. So I trust Harsin. We're finishing the recruiting well. And then whoever he gets the OC, like we've talked about tonight on the stream, it'll kind of tell us what his plans in. I feel like if it's Grimes, then okay, he's going to let him call the plays or whatever, and I'm fine with that. If it's a guy like Damian Craig, then that's really more of recruiting, and then Harsin's going to call the plays, and I'm fine with that. Me personally, I like it more if a coach is calling plays, just because like with the Bobo deal, there's a question, right? So the ridiculous call on the 3rd and 1 at the second quarter, South Carolina.
Yep.
You have to like, I guess Bobo called that play, so you want to be mad at Bobo.
But then where's the check? There's got to be a check there, right? Like I think that's what
it came through your headset, though, buddy.
Yeah.
So but whichever way, I'm kind of fine with it. Like it was his first year, and I feel like he's gonna get it. He'll make the decision. Like he's a guy that he's gonna be confident with it. Like he'll stand by it, and that'll be what it is. So I guess my questions aren't Harsin in the offseason. I think this offseason is gonna be a very good one for us.
Yeah, well, and
3rd and 1 in the second quarter versus South Carolina.
I think it'll be a good offseason simply from the fact that we're not searching for every coach. We're only searching for one at this point. As far as we know, we don't know if anybody else is going to leave or things like that. That there's more stability this offseason than there was this passing. That's going to be huge. That's huge for recruits. That's huge for the team overall. Security wise, there's less at this moment. I feel like there's less transfers. I mean, I know there's 5 that have already entered the portal, possibly. Who knows? I know we reported that Bo was going to stay, and we had that information at the time, and I stand by that statement at the time. And I'm not so sure that there's not a quiet commitment to stay that hasn't happened, but there could be. He could be leaving too. I just feel like overall the stability that's going to come from not having to search for every coach, not having to convince all these players to not run away from a coaching change and a major coaching change. It's just going to pay dividends, right? It's going to be, I think, a quieter offseason outside of recruiting, but I also think it's going to be a more productive in ways that we won't see until they get on the field. I think that's kind of what you were getting at.
Yeah, and I think too, all this stuff's kind of coming out about the program's game plan with the NIL. I read into it a little bit, kind of listened to it on the Blackeries podcast today, and that's pretty exciting stuff. And then you got the new football facility getting built. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on to be. And I want to say the gentleman's name was Chris. We were kind of going back and forth, not arguing or anything in the comments, but he was saying, talking about the media has this thing that Auburn's volatile, Auburn's toxic. And I've kind of called him before to push back on that, because the point that I want, there it is. I want to make the point simply that we get wrapped up in Auburn all the time because we're Auburn fans and we're looking at Auburn. Go, my cat wants to get in here.
Oh, yes. I love it when we get animals in here.
Hey, say what's up, Mac?
What's up?
But look at all these SEC fan bases, man. Like, and look, we're all crazy. Look at how successful Bama. Yeah, my best friend's LSU fan. I've had some interesting conversation with him this week. How's your friends in your family? But I mean, like everyone. So the point I like to make is we let Gus call plays for 12 years.
Right.
How many head coaches has Florida been through in that time period? Like, what about Tennessee? What about Texas? They're about to be an SEC team. Look at how Bama fans reacted when they lost to A&M this year. Like, I'm a big Bucs fan. I can promise you, Bucs fans immediately after the Super Bowl, I knew some that were like, I just wish we could have done this with Jameis Winston. Like, there's always right. Well, we did it with Tom Brady, and you're not going to do it if it wasn't Tom Brady. You wouldn't have done it with Jameis. So there's just always going to be that kind of deal out there. Like, there's always that fan There's always those people. They're in every fan base. Yes, there's some more than others. There are some fan bases that bark at you, but like, you know, it's with the Bo Nix stuff. There are those people. There's always
Right.
going to be those people. Those, you know, like I use this example. I don't know a lot about cars. I don't know anything about cars. So if you hear me talking about cars, you should tell me to shut up. If you don't know anything about football, or if you just tune in on Saturdays,
Right.
all you see is the quarterback have the ball in his hands every play. So that's what you're watching.
Right.
You just don't really understand what you're looking at, or you don't have a very good idea of it. So like, people have always been stupid. Now with Twitter and Facebook and all this kind of stuff, they have a megaphone, they have a platform to say their stupid thoughts. It doesn't mean that like Auburn has some stupid fans. That just is what it is. Everybody's going to have them.
Right.
I don't think our situation is volatile. And I would use this example. If you look since I've been following Auburn football, it's been the same thing going back to the days of Tommy T.
Mm-hmm.
The kids that commit to Auburn say the same thing. I came to the campus and I fell in love. It's the family atmosphere. Right. It's what it always is. And if you think about Auburn's recruiting struggles over the past 2 years, campus has been shut down because of COVID, and that's our number one attraction, is getting people to Auburn to see what it is.
Right.
But to the point of Auburn being this negative, volatile place, when these people come to Auburn, they love it. Right. You see guys like Cam coming back, jumping up into the student section with a shirtless Bruce Pearl. Auburn's an awesome place, man.
But Cam hated Auburn, remember?
Yeah, again, that's exactly proving my point. These people just say stuff. It doesn't have a whole lot of backing. If you're around Auburn, if you know what it is, it's a great place, man. I've been to a lot of like fun Auburn events and cool Auburn games. To this day, my favorite Auburn event was the final rolling at Toomer's Corner, because
Dusty, don't do that to me, man. Oh,
it just showed the spirit, man. There was so many people at a spring game. I couldn't even get through there. Like, it was just thick. I lost my mom. It was just so crazy. People were just chanting.
You keep going. I got something for you though. Keep going.
It was just beautiful. Like Auburn's such a great place. It's not. Don't let the media, anybody out there, don't let them tell you any different, man. Auburn's the best. Yeah, man. That's awesome.
This is obviously, everybody's probably got one of these, but this is my last roll from that day. I'm with you, man. You know, I've never been interviewed about my Auburn story or anything like that. But if somebody asked me, what was your favorite Auburn memory? It's weird to say that it's related to this roll of toilet paper.
Yeah, it's a spring game.
That is. So I don't know what I need to let you close the show out, because I can't end on that anything better than that. So well played, Dusty.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, man. And I love when we get to hear from you and your perspectives.
Yes, sir. War Eagle, Colin, War Eagle, everybody out there.
War Eagle, man. All right. We're going to have to close the phone lines down now, because Kyle does have to head off, but that was a great call. Always love to hear from Dusty, one of our Booster Club members, channel members. He made me pull. He almost got me there, a little misty-eyed with the whole last roll thing, but good stuff. All right. Good chat tonight. Great crowd. Those of you that joined us on Twitter, Facebook, and obviously our main YouTube crowd here, thank you so much. Smash that like button on the way out. Subscribe, notification bell. Check out links for the description. I'm getting better at saying this all stuff really fast. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned. There'll be more information coming out. We'll probably go live as soon as we know the OC hire, and we'll see what happens at that point. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. Until the next time, War Eagle.